President Joe Biden unveils a huge infrastructure spending plan and a bunch of tax increases to go along with it. Hi, Dave here from Informed American. I hope you're all having a great day. Joining us here in this little corner of the internet in what I've been calling informed opinion. And before we get to this tax plan that Joe Biden is unveiling today in a speech in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I want to share just a couple of news items that may be of interest to you, you may not have seen. President Trump sat down with his daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, for an interview, and the Daily Mail has this story. Facebook and Instagram take down Trump's interview with the daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. Well, he signaled that he will run for president in 2024 and said Biden didn't know where the hell he was when he fell down the stairs. It is true. Facebook put down that they censored this post. It's just, an interview. Trump is not even allowed to speak to someone else and have them post it, which I find to be bizarre. I don't know President Trump has appeared on Fox News and different other outlets, and I don't know the extent that Facebook has censored those as well. I don't see the difference. I guess they're making it seem like this is Trump's outlet or something and violating their terms of service from his ban from social media. So, that's just par for the course, I guess. And yeah, here's the post. It's not in line with, they've basically saying they blocked Donald Trump's Facebook, and now we can't allow anything that he says or does to be allowed on our platform. Now you can find this on dailymail.com, and it's right there on the front page if you want to search by the headline right there. You can watch the entire interview. It's about 18 minutes. It's a good interview. But I will say, don't let the headline fool you here. He answered a question about running in 2024. It's not as clear as the headline makes it seem. President Trump was very, very vague. And in no way did I find there to be a clear answer there about whether or not he's going to run. And as I've said, I do not think he's going to run. And I think he's best served. And I think what he will do is be sort of the party boss for the Republican Party, giving his thumbs up or thumbs down for candidates. Which leads us to another story. You saw this in AP. Trump's heir, Pence, reemerges and lays the groundwork for a 2024 run. This is saying Pence is positioning himself for a run in 2024. An interesting thing here, when it says when Trump was asked to list those who considers future leaders of the Republican Party, he rattled off names including Ron DeSantis, Senator Josh Hawley, and Ted Cruz, but he didn't mention Mike Pence. And this article goes basically Pence's path to 2024. I bring it up just to pose the question: do you think Pence is a viable candidate in 2024? Would you support him as the Republican nominee? Let me know. Comment down below. I don't think Pence will win the nomination. Just to give my thoughts, I don't think he's a viable presidential candidate. I think he was an okay vice president, just to sort of be or as a running mate for Trump, I guess, to play sort of a foil with a different personality, someone that could appeal to a different kind of a conservative. But I don't think he's a viable presidential candidate. I could be wrong. Let me know what you think. I think right now, Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, my home state, is the leader so far. Of course, we have a long way to go, and no one has really announced that they're going to run. We got some time before that. But I think DeSantis is emerging as a prime candidate for president for the Republican Party. So I wanted to jump into those things really quick, just to share those with you. If you happen to miss the Trump interview, because, well, where the heck are you going to find it? It's being censored all over the place. But Daily Mail was good enough to put that up if you're interested. And let me know what you think about Mike Pence. Am I wrong here? Do you think he has a viable chance of becoming the Republican nominee and maybe successfully winning the presidency in 2024? Let me know what you think down below. Now, on to the Biden plan. Now, we've been talking about this, much rumored. This is something that's been hinted at over the last few weeks, and President Biden will unveil that plan today. So let's go over the details. Biden, this comes from the New York Post, Biden to announce up to $4 trillion infrastructure plan with massive tax hike. That's right. Well, we got to come up with some way to pay for it, right, guys? The numbers, it's funny because the numbers they're still all over the place. Now, we know it's a minimum of $2 trillion, and so it could be a two-part proposal where they're going to tack on another trillion or two. And as Hillary Clinton famously said, at this point, what difference does it make? At least here in terms of dollar amounts, the numbers are sky high. Of course, we just passed a $2 trillion COVID relief package. So, hey, what's another 3 or 4 trillion? Though this is part of his Build Back Build Back Better proposal, the centerpiece of his post-COVID campaign message. And it says here, split into two packages for Congress to pass. The first package is going to be $2 trillion. And, of course, tax hikes. As for how to pay for the plan, Biden's main priority will be to raise the corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%. And if you remember, the tax cut in 2017 lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. So Biden's looking to bump that up another 7%. And as we've talked about here, raising the individual income tax rate for those making over $400,000 up to 39.6%. And now I have the details of this plan of what's actually going to be in it. Here's the breakdown of $2 trillion. And I want to know what you think about all this. $180 billion for research and development, a little over $100 billion for roads and bridges, $85 billion for public transit, $80 billion to Amtrak, $174 billion to encourage electric vehicles via tax credits and other incentives to compete with China for those who are building electric vehicles. $42 billion for ports and airports, $100 billion for broadband, a little over $100 billion for water infrastructure, $300 billion to promote advanced manufacturing, $400 billion in in-home care. And down and down and down the line. We got $35 billion for R&D programs, another focus here on electric vehicles for government agencies to buy fleets for EVs. So maybe your little post office truck that runs on natural gas or something like that. Maybe that could be an electric vehicle. And as for how to pay for it, well, tax increases. Yes. Eliminate tax preferences for fossil fuel companies. Raise the corporate tax from 28% to 21%, as we mentioned earlier. Overall taxation of profits earned overseas by U.S. megacorps, which includes raising the minimum tax on global profits and eliminating several provisions that would allow companies to reduce their U.S. tax liability. So I find that fascinating. Also here, to ramp up enforcement of large companies avoiding taxes, prevent American companies from inversions to tax havens, eliminate loopholes that encourage offshoring, and denying expense deductions for companies that are offshoring jobs. So what do you make of this? Now, I gotta say, in the interest of being fair and in the interest of being honest, I don't have a big problem with this plan. In fact, based on these bullet points, and you may disagree, and I want to know in which ways you disagree, this doesn't look like a bad plan to me. We've been hearing for how long that the U.S. needs to. We have crumbling roads and bridges. The U.S. needs to upgrade its infrastructure. We're relying on infrastructure in some cases that's decades old. And how old are the bridges in New York and other major cities? When was the last time we've done a major infrastructure build? It's been a long time. Republicans have said they want it. Democrats have been saying they want it. President Trump, in fact, wanted an infrastructure plan. And some speculated that could have been a grand bargain to pass infrastructure along with maybe something like immigration or with healthcare, but that never went anywhere. Trump wanted infrastructure. People have been saying we need to upgrade our infrastructure forever, and it comes down to it. You have to pay for it. So I don't see this as a big deal, or at least it's a big deal in terms of dollars. But I don't think this is a bad plan. And on the other side, corporate taxes. My fear about tax raising is, as I've said, I'm a middle class advocate. So my fear is that when the tax raises come, it's the middle class that gets stuck with it, and it remains to be seen if that's the case. But here, the plan here seems to be to pay for this spending through taxing corporate America, but it doesn't seem to be going after the little guys here. It seems to be going after the large mega corporations. Going after companies that offshore. I despise offshoring and outsourcing. So I think a lot of these things, as we talked about yesterday, I gave the example. We talked about buy American. That was one of the questions I posed to you. Should we buy American? And I used that example of going to Walmart and seeing a Coke dispenser half the price as the one made in China as the one made in the United States. And the point I was making is that this is sort of these sorts of things are put on the consumer to make the choice to buy the more expensive thing. But I said, no, that's not really the way to look at it. Those decisions for those products, that one that's half the price of the other because it's been made with with cheap Chinese labor, those decisions come down from policy. And one of those things is if companies are incentivized to outsource and offshore, then they're going to do it. And you have to start it at the top to discourage that kind of behavior and say, yeah, if you're going to offshore your production, then you're going to have to pay for it, corporate America. And I don't see the problem with that. I think this is just fine. Now, raising the corporate tax rate 21 to 28%, I don't know. I mean, 21% was pretty darn low. But let's look at some of these companies that don't really pay all that much in taxes. Here, this is a story here just a month or two ago, from February rather. Amazon had to pay federal income taxes for the first time since 2016. After 2 straight years of paying $0. Paying $0 in federal income tax, Amazon was on the hook for a $162 million bill in 2019. $162 million is just a fraction of its $13.9 billion in pre-tax income, or roughly 1.2%. Here's a look at Amazon, Facebook, Google, Netflix, and Apple. Percentage of profit paid in cash tax, far below the corporate tax rate. Facebook, just 10%. The same company that censors your former president. You can't watch your former president give an interview to his daughter-in-law. That company pays just 10.2%, as we noted. Now, I guess Amazon this spans between 2010 and 2019. Amazon didn't pay taxes for 3 straight years? 0. This is a company. If you joined Parler, the social media app that Rodney's wrote quite a bit about over the last couple of months, the reason why Parler died, this was a free speech forum, social media site. If you joined, well, that was pulled. Why? Because Amazon, which controls its subsidiary Amazon Web Services, provided the technology for the Parler app. They removed it, and then Parler died. Google, Trump, which owns YouTube, Trump can't talk on YouTube. We know about search engine manipulation by Google, 15.8%. And we can go through any other problems with Netflix and Apple. Apple, I mean, these are big tech. These are the people that basically pulled the strings on our culture. So why would I say, oh, Amazon, oh, you shouldn't pay taxes? Facebook, yeah, and Twitter's not on here. I don't know what theirs is. Facebook, Twitter, you go ahead and censor Americans. But no, I don't want you to pay any more in taxes. Why not? Really, tell me why. If you're a conservative, we've gone over this. Big corporations, mega corporations, big tech, if you're a conservative, they hate you. They hate the way you think. They hate the way you talk. They hate the things that you want. So why defend them? I ask you. Here's a history of the U.S. corporate tax rate in the United States going back to, 1920. And we see here at the end the tax cut, President Trump tax cut. Now, look how high it was in the 1950s, 1940s, all the way through the 1980s. You might say, well, if we raise the corporate tax rate, then it's going to be a job killer. Well, were we able to have jobs in the 1940s and the 1950s and through the early 1960s? From what I've been told, that was the golden era of America, where a family could, or a head of household or a single worker could feed a family of 4 and be able to take a vacation and have a retirement, maybe even own a boat. That wasn't so bad, was it? Corporate taxes were pretty high. Were we not able to create jobs at a 35% corporate tax rate? Yeah, I think we were. I don't see the big deal. Particularly, to put the point on it again, for companies that hate you, For companies that have hollowed out manufacturing in the United States, why defend them? Let me know. And I understand this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I don't get it. I just don't get it. Now, for those of you who oppose the plan and are worried maybe about this thing passing, is going to face some hurdles. And with a 50-50 split in the Senate, the Senate Democrats are going to have to maybe try some maneuvers to get this thing passed. So it's by no means a fait accompli. It says, as Congress, this is a story from CBS News, as Congress pursues Biden's ambitious legislative agenda, Chuck Schumer is mulling the use of an obscure procedural maneuver that would allow for President's massive infrastructure bill to pass without any Republican votes. Of course, we see here 50 seats. It says most legislation requires 60 votes to advance in the Senate, and Democrats are unlikely to get Republican support for their more ambitious spending proposals. Yeah, and if you read any of the quotes from Mitch McConnell or any other Republican senators, they say, no, this is too much spending and we can't add any more debt. It says absent of eliminating the filibuster, which would allow legislation to advance with a simple majority, Democrats have few options for passing their priorities without any Republican votes. So one of the things to keep in one such path here, one thing to keep your eye on is budget reconciliation, a procedural maneuver which allows budget-related items to pass with a simple majority. So we'll see if that can happen, if they'll try reconciliation. I believe that's what they did with Obamacare, by the way. I believe it says you can only use it. It says, although typical, says yes, Democrats used a budget resolution for the current fiscal year to lay the groundwork for passing the American Rescue Plan. Although typically budget reconciliation, so I can't talk, is used only once per fiscal year. A Schumer aide said the majority leader is asking the Senate parliamentarian whether he can revise the current budget resolution to allow for another reconciliation process to pass the infrastructure package. So this is going to be a big fight, and it's basically probably going to have to come down to some sort of budget reconciliation maneuver, and whatever tricks the Senate Democrats can come up with to get this thing passed. But I posed to you a few questions. I posed a lot of questions today, and we're going to get out of here quickly. So I want to know what you think. First of all, check out the Trump interview if you missed it. What do you think of Facebook censoring this post? And do you agree with me that the headline there from the Daily Mail is a bit sensationalistic? I didn't really hear anything from Trump's answer that he said he's going to run. What do you think of Mike Pence's prospects? What do you think of this infrastructure plan? One, does the United States need an infrastructure plan? Do we need something to help rebuild our roads and bridges? Do we need funding for that, for rail, highways, bridges? What about the carve out for electric vehicles? Now, if you talk to our editor here at informedamerican.com, electric vehicles are coming. This is the future. Don't know when, but we're seeing a big push and a big investment for that. And I think, I'm a buy American kind of guy. And if we can give American electric vehicle makers a leg up over, say, Chinese competition, I don't think that's a bad thing. I'd rather be buying an electric vehicle put together by Americans, engineered by Americans, than getting it from the Chinese. What do you think about that? Now, the other detail here, I don't think we mentioned, the spending is going to be over 8 years, but the tax plan is going to take 15 years. So it's sort of half paid for by the taxes. But this the plan to pay for it through taxing corporations and wealthy individuals. What do you think about that? If you say yes, an infrastructure plan is badly needed. We can get Americans to work and help rebuild infrastructure that's been neglected here in the United States. Well, you do have to come up with some way to pay for it. And that way is usually through taxes. So what do you think, putting it all together? What do you think of Biden's infrastructure plan? Am I way off here thinking this thing doesn't really look that bad? And yeah, if someone's going to pay for it, I don't mind Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter, big tech companies that offshore paying up a little bit more for it. I don't see the problem with that, particularly in the light that these companies are at the center of the culture war and are leading it, are spearheading it, doing everything they can to silence Americans who want to express themselves, Americans who are looking for a different path or don't like the path that America is going down. Yeah, I think they could pay a little more. Let me know what you think down below here. And if you're watching here on informedamerican.com, join 250,000 subscribers by signing up for our totally free email newsletter list. I would love it if you would do so. If you're checking us out on Facebook, please hit the like button, share this video with your friends. And if you're catching us on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel to get more content like this sent to your device. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.